What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of At a Glance, the series in which I give you an appetizer sampler glimpse into a particular faction in 40k. And the goal behind this is to help you decide if you want to look further into the Force on your own, or maybe even start collecting that Force as well. So up on the chopping block this time by viewer request, going through my backlogs, is the Valhallan Ice Warriors regiments. It was either that or the Blood Ravens, and I thought, why not do a regimental force? It's been a while. So the Valhallan Ice Warriors is a regimental force, and like other Imperial Guard regiments, that means there's a lot of them. So what I do for regimental forces in the Astra Militarum, as it's called now, is I go over the basic overview of all the regiments together under that name that come from that specific planet, giving you a basic glance view on that. And the Valhallans are going to be done the same way. There's not going to be too much to say, so I'm actually going to supplement what I'm saying here by, after going through everything, giving you a couple of thoughts that I had in regards to the Valhallan Ice Warriors regimental forces on how they could be improved. I definitely think this is a force that needs some improvement. Not in a bad way, just I think could really stand to be updated and improved. And I'll get into how exactly at the end of this. So, with that said, the Valhallan Ice Warriors hail from the planet of Valhalla, and the planet of Valhalla used to be a paradise world until a comet smashed into it. And instead of decimating the planet and everything, it actually pushed the planet off of its normal rotation, or orbit, I should say, not rotate. I guess it works to say either way, but it pushed it off of its normal orbit around its star, and therefore went from being a paradise planet to a ice-racked type of just horribleness, almost like an icy death roll in a way. And as a result, it was a drastic change that the Valhallans had to get used to survive in. On top of that, orcs invaded the planet, so they had to get used to the climate change and then learn how to repel the orcs and survive, and they did both. So what you have is a couple of specialties right there. The Valhallan Ice Warriors specialize in Arctic combat situations, as you would expect by the name Ice Warriors. They are a specialization in terms of anti-orc capability, and there are other specializations actually for attritional warfare. Not the most unique thing to be specialized in as an Imperial Guard force, but they can take heavy losses without breaking, so that's kind of good too. So that's their specialties. Now the Valhallan Ice Warriors have a kind of stereotypical look to them that they are showcased in artwork and in model form a lot of the times. And that is green with some white accenting on their long coats. The long coat, great coat, whatever you want to call it, it looks like it's a thick coat for the weather. They have some other insulated stuff on, definitely implying that they are for fighting in specific climate zones, if you will. Then that's their specialty. So they look the part for sure. And although they're typically in green with white accenting, you'll see them in tan and in white and in gray. You could do them in red, I'm sure. Being that there's a lot of regiments of them, it really leaves it open for you to paint them the way you want, in a sense. You could follow the more traditional look, or you can go on your own path. Either way will work. So that's what they look like. With that said, when they go to war, they prefer weapons like mortars, flamers, and melters, and things like that, and artillery. And when they're on defensive, it's classic gun line with artillery and mortar barrages supporting it. And when they're on the offensive, it's a artillery and mortar barrage followed by a big infantry push. That's what they like to do. It doesn't mean they have no tanks or sentinels. They do, but their preferred way is to just do a big infantry push after artillery bombardment and whatnot. So that's their style of combat. So with that said, the Valhallans have fought in a variety of different sectors of space. They have regiments fighting in the 13th Black Crusade as well as fighting elsewhere, so it's not a force that's so specialized that they don't get used that much. They get used aplenty. So That's definitely something to consider. With that said, when it comes to collecting the Valhallans, there's really not much else to say right now on the Valhallan Ice Warriors. So I'm going to just go into collecting them. The codex of choice will be the Astra Militarum Codex, as I like to call it, the Imperial Guard Codex. And model-wise, you're in a bit of a pickle. There is a Valhallan squad sold by GW, normally. Right now it's temporarily out of stock because they released their made-to-order things recently, and on there was Valhallan stuff, heavy weapon teams, special weapons, officers, and so on. And those are all sold out and listed as no longer available. So they were all sold out, and the Valhallan squad was sold out with them because people were probably buying the squad and then the heavy weapon thing to add to it or whatnot, and so on and so forth. So the regular Valhallan squad is temporarily out of stock. The others are listed as no longer available. I don't know when the Valhallan squad is coming back in. I don't know if the other ones will ever come back or not because made to order was described a bit oddly when I was reading up on it from GW. So, truth be told, I just don't know. Now, with that said, you might be able to find these guys, some of the older models and stuff for them, in certain hobby stores that like to hold on to everything and have a a stash room that they could just store things in for years, or a basement or whatnot. You might get lucky and find some Valhallan stuff in some local gaming stores or online, as well as checking out eBay online, of course. eBay and sites like that are going to be your go-to to find genuine Valhallan models. Chances are you'll be able to find them if you do a bit of digging. It's not a guarantee you're going to find it the first day you look, but that's a really good place to check to find Valhallans. Lastly, you could always do third-party companies. These companies will make either bits or almost full-on models that happen to be the right size and fit in very well with existing Imperial Guard bits. So if you do a bit of digging, I don't know of any off the top of my head for Valhallans, but if you do a little bit of research, you might be able to find some custom bits and semi-kits that would work to represent them. And of course, if you're really good at green stuffing and sculpting and whatnot, you could try your hand at just buying Cadians and heavily modifying them with green stuff to look the part also. So those are all your options. Unfortunately, nothing is quite clear cut. And that's the big unfortunate thing for a lot of these different regimental forces. Armageddon Steel Legion, Mordian Iron Guard, and whatnot. They just don't have the model support the Cadians and the Catachans do, or even the Elysians and the Death Corps from Forge World do as well. So you have to really scrounge around for these guys, unfortunately. The bright side is, any type of vehicle stuff you're going to want to use it. They have that too, so there is that, which is a bit helpful. It's really infantry, which really make the look that you're going to have a bit of difficulty with. So, with that said, there's not much else for me to say, aside from keep in mind, if for basing them, they're called the Valhallan Ice Warriors. It doesn't have to be over-the-top snow bases, but I would recommend having the base at least hint at the idea of cold weather, not deserty or jungly or whatnot. That's my recommendation. Of course, you do whatever you wish. So with that said, this is a regimental force that I think definitely needs improvement, not just in model support, because I understand the real world logistics of that. If you had these guys and the Talons and the Mordians and the Armageddon all represented in full model support, it just isn't that feasible given that they probably don't sell that much. I get all that, whatever. Besides, the Valhallans I think need an overhaul anyway. I don't know about you, but even though I'm not a Norse or Viking fan really at all, when I hear Valhallan Ice Warriors, that's what I think of in my head first. I don't think World War II era Soviet Red Army as the inspiration for Valhallan Ice Warriors, because 'cause that's what they're based off of, and there's nothing wrong with that theme to be based off of. But when I hear Valhallan Ice Warriors, that's what I think of in my head first. I don't think World War II era Soviet Red Army as the inspiration for Valhallan Ice Warriors, because that's what they're based off of, and there's nothing wrong with that theme to be based off of. That's why their name character that we know of is Chenkov, and other name characters have a very Russian sounding name as well. And that's why they have their visuals the way they do. That's why the whole attritional warfare thing makes sense, and so on. Nothing wrong with all of that, but I would not necessarily think Valhallan Ice Warriors with that type of visual cue. In fact, I would have taken the Vostrians, which are Russian and Cossack themed from the 19th century, but I would have taken the Vostrian name, and instead of them being the Vostrian Firstborn, you could call them the Vostrian Ice Warriors, and it would fit just fine with how the Valhallan Ice Warriors currently look. And I find it kind of funny, but also a little bit unfortunate, because that really is the case. You don't really have much in the way of any Norse or Viking feel. I'm not saying things need to be over the top like the Space Wolves are, or like the Blood Angels are, or whatnot necessarily, but their theme and the way they are visually as an army works. And the Valhallans don't have that type of jiving going on. In fact, I feel like if you're going to keep the name Valhallan Ice Warriors, they should take some of the more straight up Norse or Viking style of feel from the Space Wolves. I've been thinking about this over time. It would pop up every so often. That some of the more ridiculously human style things that Space Wolves have attributed to them over the years that are very Norse and Viking-esque, that could be attributed instead to the Valhallan Ice Warriors. And from there, they could do a little bit of a visual overhaul to their model range. And what you would have, I think, is a much more interesting, appropriately named regimental force. Again, nothing wrong with how they're currently inspired visually. It just doesn't mesh with the name, at least not for me. And I'm not even a fan of this type of stuff, Norse Viking X stuff. If you are, and you're new to 40k, and you don't see any artwork or pictures of the Valhallan Ice Warriors regiment, but you just are told and discover that 40k has a non-Space Marine force called the Valhallan Ice Warriors, you have certain expectations in your mind just from that name, especially if you're a big fan of the Viking type stuff, the Norse Viking type stuff. So you're going to expect certain things. And then when you eventually find out what they look like, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed. That's all I'm getting at. Anyways, feel free to share your thoughts on that in the comment section below as well. And that's really it for the Valhallan Ice Warriors regimental forces. If you're into ice combat, ice warrior type stuff, and you have ideas for maybe some conversions or some basing and weathering on your models, then this is definitely the force to give a look-see into. Unfortunately, the infantry model support just really isn't there at the moment. Hopefully it'll come back, but you just have to wait and see, or do some digging online, eBay, stuff like that, and you'll be just fine. But that's it, so thanks for sticking through it. Hopefully it wasn't too boring for some people, and if you have any questions, comments, or requests, leave them in the comment section. And until next time, take it easy.